Okay, we're going to start today with a piece of apple burr that I was given. As you can see, there's quite a lot of burrs on it. So the first thing is to decide how I'm going to cut that to get the best out of it. What I want to do is either an apple or a pear. So the first thing is looking at the angles of it. So I've got an angle down and an angle up. So probably the first cut would be somewhere near the middle, because I'm not going to get anything out of the bend. And then unfortunately it's been cut at a strange angle, but then when you get wood for free then you don't complain. So what I want to do is cut that perpendicular to the branch itself on the bandsaw. And then from there I can work out where the centres are, because I'm also looking at what the diameter is without these burr bits on the outside, because they'll all come off. But you get some nice effects inside the wood as well, where the burrs actually are. So okay, so we're going to take this to the bandsaw. So got it lined up where I want. I'm not going to put the dust extractor on because it's noisy, but normally I would have the dust extractor on.
Do you grip it with a clamp?
I would if it was round, but this isn't round, so it's got quite a good flat base to sit it on. So line it up there and make sure it's going to go through without the burrs catching on the bottom. You can see inside how nice the colours are in the wood. So now that I've got the first piece cut off, I normally set it, if I'm doing an apple, then I set it to about 100mm. And that gives me enough. If I'm doing a pear, then I set it to about 12. Okay. If it was a smaller piece of wood, then I would be using what do you call it thing? A push stick. Yeah. Keep your fingers well out the way of the blade. Right, so pop that down.
Could hold that up to the camera maybe so as we can see it. And the grain.
And the grain, so we've got that on that side. And that on that side.
Good.
So it's a lovely piece of wood.
Yeah.
So now what I need to do is find the centres, trying to ignore all these bumps on the outside. Okay. Okay, it can be kind of difficult to work out where the centre is, because it's not simply the centre of that. So what I need to look at is where the centre is of the actual piece of wood, which is approximately there, looking along the long axis. So if I mark on the top there, and then go round about 90 degrees, and again look for the centre between the edges of the log. So that gives me an idea now where the centre will be, and as you can see, it's nowhere near where you might think it is. I also want to go through another 90 degrees and just check again if I'm in the right sort of ballpark. So that looks like about there. So line there, and then on the fourth side, right there.
That's a very good tip, Sheila.
Thank you. I need a ruler. Oh, I've lost that mark now. Okay, let's go to there. So I know my centre now is roughly in there. Put the centre finder on and just mark it. Right. Need to do the same for the other side. I'll do this one a wee bit quicker. I mean, it's just a rough guide, but it seems to work quite well. So roughly. And that one actually has come right into 1 point, so that's
turned out well.
Really good. Okay, mark that end, and then we're ready to go to the lathe. Yeah. Okay. And then just bring the tailstock up, so it doesn't really matter because both ends, in terms of which end I put on the chucking point, because it's nice grain both ends. So let's bring it in fairly close. And then wind it in. I want to make sure that the stem has got a good grip, so what I do is try and turn it against the chuck. If I can't turn it against the chuck, then it's ready to start. So one more and then tighten up. Okay, so we've got lots of big bumps, so I'm going to start taking these off. Now I've sharpened all of my tools. First thing is to check that it'll clear the tool rest. Make sure everything's tight before I start. Starting with the speed at its lowest, and then just gradually wind it up. And you probably can't see from this view, but I have a red background. I've just painted the wall red because it's the best colour to see the ghost image. So we know exactly where the high points are. And then once I get to the point where I can get my fingers between the tool rest and the piece of wood, it's time to stop and move the tool rest in. So again, I'm looking at the horizon, not where the tool is.
It's quite hard.
Apple is quite hard, so that's why it's important to have really nice sharp tools when we're doing this. You can probably see big bits flying off now, so that's why I'm wearing a mask. Use the tool rest up a bit. So the speed's at about 1200 just now. get a jump like that, then I'll stop, check if it's loosened, and then just give it another turn. I don't want it flying off.
Neither do I.
Bad enough if it's just yourself, but if you've got company it's even worse. Doing a demo would be a disaster. Let's put the speed up just a wee bit now. Aiming to get this down to about 8 centimetres. So I'll just eyeball that. Now the finger of my left hand just sitting against the tool rest, so it gives me an almost parallel tip. So some absolutely beautiful grain in that.
It's lovely.
It is beautiful. Apple burr is, it's a lovely piece of wood to work with. Right, I'm just going to get my parting tool and cut down to make a chucking point. I'm using the 50mm jaws, so I actually have on my wall behind me the sizes of all the chuck jaws for compression and expansion, so I don't have to try and remember them all. I've got a light on now so I can see the ghost image. I know exactly how to get it down to it. Calipers are absolutely invaluable. So sitting there at 49, and the compression on the 50mm jaws is between 45 and 64mm, so we're okay with that. Okay.
Perfect.
Magnets are a great thing as well. Stop you losing your tools all the time. Right, I'll take this off now. I do put the tailstock in just at the start until I get it down to the size that I want. So first thing to do is just to clean up this face. Okay. Now, when I first started doing fruit, you see that on there?
Yeah.
I started with an outline of what I wanted the apple shape to be as guidance, which I think is quite a nice thing to have. You can see that there are no straight points on it, it's curved all the way around. Obviously it's just a half, so
yeah.
that I can look against a piece of wood. But this is for a 7 centimetre apple. The apples, you tend to start with 7 centimetres in diameter, 7 centimetres in length, so you can change that to whichever, and I've done up to 13 centimetres, so doing big apples, and right down to about 2 centimetres. So it's just it's a guide. If it was a pear, then I'd start off with about a 7 centimetre diameter and about 9 centimetres in length, because a pear obviously is slightly longer than an apple.
Good.
Right, so I need to bring this down to about 7 centimetres now. So that's for the rough and gouge again. In fact, no, tell you what. It's quite a good idea at this point to see how wide it actually is. So we start at 75, so I've only got about 5 mil to take off. Now I'm at 72, which is close enough. Keep that there, and then mark where the equivalent length is. I don't want all my apples to be exactly the same size, because that's not what you get in nature. Now the widest point of the apple, we'll go back to that. On this one it's just above half, so half would be about there. I want to go just above that, so it's probably about a third. That's what I'm aiming for. Okay. So I'll just mark that with a pencil. So I'm going to take just a little bit off with the rough and gouge. Now when I first started turning, I could only ever turn straight lines. And that's not much use if you want a piece of fruit. So I saw a demo by Stuart Mortimer a while back, and what he described was the rule of halves, which actually works very well. As if you think of a circle, you can draw as many straight lines around the circumference of it. So a circle is basically made up of lots and lots and lots of tiny straight lines. So if you start with your cut in a straight line, approximately straight line, and then go to half the distance, do another one. Half the distance again. That's the distance I go in. And then take one all the way around.
It does make such a difference being able to make one continuous cut.
Yeah,
And
it
it's good
does.
to practice.
Yeah. So you can already see now there's a pretty reasonable curve over the top. There's still a straight line here, so I want to just take a bit more off there. Keep the tool moving. Handles well down. Left hand is just pushing the tool down onto the tool rest. Just do a little bit more at the end. And it also makes a huge difference having your tool sharp. Huge difference.
Essential.
Absolutely essential.
Oh, a lovely piece of
It
wood.
is a lovely piece of wood. Right, so now I want to mark where the end is going to be. So the end is going to be down right here. So again, the tool starts really handle low down. I'm cutting right at the top and come into the line. Go in the other direction. So as soon as I see the cut, I then turn the tool. So at this time it's cutting sort of about at 11 o'clock. Reverse it, handle well down. This time I'm cutting about between 1 and 2 o'clock. So all this is doing is making space to allow me to turn the bottom. So it's just a case of working your way back. You can also start creating the curve if you're fairly experienced with it. Turning the speed up now, so I'm now sitting at about 1500. Again. So all the time I'm watching the direction of the bevel because that tells me where the cut's going to be. So if I'm here and I want to go round the corner, then I have to start turning the handle so it's coming towards my body now to bring it in. Again, you can do this in small straight cuts if you want to start with. So that's a straight cut. That's a straight cut, again going back half the distance. You're beginning to see the shape of the apple now. Okay, let's do one all the way around. Right. the cut and open the flute. And attach the cut, open the flute. The cut, the devil's facing that way. At the start of the cut, the devil's facing that way, so the devil moves all the way around up and down. And I'm not too worried if there's a few little ripples, so we can get rid of that later. But now what we're going to do is make the hole. I want to recenter it, put my thumb in the middle, and then push it in and tighten. Hopefully it should be. Well, I'm testing this, I've turned the speed right down.
That's better.
So that's better, pretty good. Okay. Okay. So about 1200. Gradually making a concave centre. If you've got the chisel at the right height, you should be able to just push it in and drill out. Okay, so we'll stop that. Turn the speed right down to its lowest. And I've now got a Jacob's chip in the tailstock. Okay, so taking the speed again. So nice and slow, nice and canny. Now I'm only going in about an inch. Okay, then it come back to shape the top. Speed back up again. Okay. Just looking at the profile of it, I want to make sure that I don't have any flat points on it. I want it to be a nice smooth curve all around. Again, you can see how the chisel changes. So it starts vertical. Open up the flute, then bring it round so that the bevel is rubbing all the way round, right into the centre. Okay. Right, I'm going to go back now and do a bit, refine the shape on the side, because I've got a little bit of a high point. You can see that there's a high point on here, and it's a bit straight here, so I still need to refine this shape. So I've got no straight points on it.
Yeah.
Straight edges anyway.
Looking good though.
There's not many apples that have got straight edges.
This is very true.
Okay. Right. So a little bit more. Tell you what, because I've already done quite a lot, so I'm just going to sharpen it or hone it with a little diamond file. Not doing it very much, you think, but it makes a huge difference to the cut that you get. So, profile. I do that,
yep.
So I'm looking at the profile of the apple now,
yeah,
against that template that I have.
Yep.
So it's looking not bad.
Yeah.
See, every apple's not the same, exactly the same shape, so I don't want them all exactly the same shape. But I do want it to come in a bit more at the bottom. We've got a bit of a fat bottom at the minute. So I take it down to about an inch and then do the sanding, so probably not do the sanding. I'm going to start with a 120 because there are a few lines on it, and then work down 180, 240, 320, 400 and see what it looks like after that.
Lovely. On to 400 now, 600 now. And you can already see a sheen developing on the wood, even with no finish on it. Yeah. So there are cracks in the wood, but that's just part of the feature of a burr. That's its feature.
And I mean,
character.
It's character. And one of the other things I've noticed, let me take this off. When I'm turning burr wood, you get a beautiful finish on it, and then after a few weeks, when you go back to it, it's still smooth. But it's difficult to describe. The
knurly bits come out.
Yeah, and you get some really, I mean, it's really, really nice.
And it starts to get a wee bit darker as well, usually.
Yeah. So that's it down to 600. Because the diameter of the piece that I'm cutting is quite small, so the speed in the middle is obviously gets slower as you get closer to the centre. So, into the parting tool,
gradually getting closer to the base of the apple. Always leaving space for the blade so it doesn't jam. And you feel a change in tone when it gets close. So I take it down to about 5mm length stop. I'm just going to saw the last bit off. You can twist it off, but you generally end up with a lot of torn grain on the bottom. So,
and a hole in it.
And a hole in it, yeah. So I've got a reasonable base there, so now I need to shape the bottom of the apple. Okay, so I've got the screw chuck in the chuck. That's just a piece of yoga mat. That works quite well, because I don't want to mark the actual end of the apple. And screw it in until it's as tight as it will go. Okay. Now, again, I want the chisel to be sitting right on centre. Yep. So, chisel on centre. Cutting at about 11 o'clock. I just push the chisel in gently. A wee bit canny. And then just gradually pull it out. So it's a very gentle manoeuvre. So again, I don't want that. A screw chuck is fine, but it's certainly not as good as a full chuck. Okay, and then just work that last little bit. You have a choice at the bottom. You can leave a little pit like that, or you can pyrograph it, or just have a dimple. Again, I don't make them all the same, just whatever happens that day. Okay, so we're back to standing, unfortunately. Well, a bit of a straight edge there, so I might just okay, so sanding finished. And you see the lovely grain in that.
Looks great.
Yeah.
And that's a little dimple on the end of your apple.
Yeah.
Well, not dimple, pimple.
Right, so take it off the screw.
Right.
Old toothbrush, and then give it a good scrub to get rid of any of the dust out of all these little
Fissures.
I was going to say cracks, but fissures sounds better. Sounds like it's meant to be there rather than not meant to be there. Because you don't want to put a finish on it with any dust in it. Old toothbrushes are great for all sorts of things. Yeah. Right, so I'm going to put some Osmo oil on that now, and that'll bring out the colours even better. That's just lovely, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Just a little bit of oil. And you don't want to put too much on it because it goes all sticky and horrible.
The colour's popping out.
Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Absolutely beautiful. Give it a rub all over. Not forgetting its bottom.
Lovely.
And then just rub off the excess. And then, normally I would leave that to dry for 24 hours and then buff it on the buffing system before
I've got a nice little pot full of all sorts of bits of my beech hedge from the garden. They're great as little stems. So I'll just take a wee bit off the end of that one. There we go. So I'm not going to glue that in just now because I don't put that on before I polish it.
No.
We just
Beautiful. Lovely.
there we go.
Very nice.
Done.
Well done, Sheila.
Thank you.
Are you going to show us your workshop?
If you would like to see my workshop,
Well, we could just go round it.
okay.
They do a Jane McDonald.
Or Jane McDonald. Well, you've already seen lathe number 1. This is something that I saw somebody else had made, and basically it's just bits of black pipe from B&Q. So the black pipe is wider because you need it for the big tools, and then the white pipe is the smaller. So they're all screwed in, but you can get all sorts of bits and pieces in there, which is nice and close to hand.
Great.
And then I've got my pillar drill
Pillar drill.
there, again, which is quite handy.
Uh-huh.
And then the Robert's
Row edge.
That made a huge difference to my turning.
Yeah, it's so much quicker than a
It's
tornate.
just, yeah. And then lathe number 2 was my old lathe that a friend has now bought. And we've got a slightly different tool rest at the back for her.
Great.
Then on the end of that, we've got the chop saw. And then a huge pile of wood at the back there. Over there, bits of burr that I was very kindly given.
Lovely.
Lots of bits of burr. Then I've got a spindle oscillating sander, which
Handy
is
thing to have.
great for doing all sorts of things. And then a box of all the bits of
Joe Sonja and things, I see.
Sonia and in drawers. I have to be organised in my garage. And then more wood and another toolbox. So if you come down, there's yet another lathe,
Yeah,
which is actually my brother's lathe.
great.
And then tool rest behind that. And then bandsaw, I've got a little Axminster bandsaw, which I kind of use for the small stuff. And then beside that, I've got a humongous record power one, which was just the heaviest thing. Even it took 2 men, and they really struggled to get that in. And then I've got a workbench, which is usually always covered with stuff. And
I like the mushrooms outside. I'm going to
oh
show
yeah, with
people
the
them.
mushrooms outside. They've just grown out of the ground.
Yeah, they're just wild.
Wild mushrooms. They were basically bits of wood that had cracked, but they were just too nice to throw out.
They're
So
lovely.
I
Yeah.
thought I would just put them in my garden.
Great.
That's
Perfect.
that. Yeah,
Good. Thank you very much, Sheila.
I'll let you see it.
Well done.
Yeah. This is another wood store.
Oh, this is bad as Hamish.
Well, the wood at the end, that's for the wood burning stove.
Uh-huh.
And any of the bowls, there's a couple of bowls you can see there that have not done terribly well when they dried out. I'm still
Great.
kind of learning how to do that.
Yeah, I'll have to show this to Jenny. That's not so bad after all.
No. Thing is, you can just never turn down some wood. It's
No, well, if it's going for nothing, then.
I've
Great.
got a friend, a colleague that I used to work with. He's just taken down a yew tree,
All right, lovely.
and he phoned me. So hopefully